Good evening, everybody. We are the We Trying channel. I'm Michael. That's Leroy, part of a Nerdy by Nature production. We're here with you for another tape, to press, to play, to live, to tape, to whatever you want to call it. We thought we were going to be live, but we're taping it just in case. Who knows? Maybe we'll be live. Who knows what's going to happen? You'll find out when this goes up Saturday around
You
9:30
know what? You'll
ish.
find out when we find out.
Yeah, this may
That's
all
how
be
this
moot,
works.
and
Yeah.
maybe we'll
This.
be live. But in the event
Yeah.
that we're not, we're taping it now. Crazy topic for the past 2 weeks. Uh, we would have we would have talked about it last week, but we just didn't
Yeah.
last week.
Our
I don't know
schedules our
why.
schedules didn't line up. So
Yeah.
a little behind the scenes. I work for South Carolina Educational Television now, and we have been this last week. So I'm packing now to go for another week on a shoot for a new show that we're trying, or a pilot that I'm working on about the South Carolina state parks. So the last week I spent in Devil's Fork, upstate South Carolina, outside of Salem. Look it up at Lake Jocassee. Beautiful. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you.
If
I
you have money, you would move there.
no, no,
Oh,
never
oh,
that. No, look,
okay.
let's not. No. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some beautiful houses up there,
Mhm.
but it's one of those things where me and Katie were talking about it, where people are like, I love South Carolina. South Carolina is beautiful, and like they had this affinity for South Carolina, and I'm like, really? This was one of those times where I went someplace where I was like, oh, I get it now.
Mhm.
I get why you love, like the outdoors, and like this lake is beautiful. Now, don't get me wrong, it is still the place that they filmed Deliverance at,
Mhm.
but outside of that part, Lake Jocassee is beautiful. Devil's Fork is beautiful. Kiowee State Park is right down the street from that. It's a beautiful area. If you get a chance to go visit it, I highly recommend it. When my boys get of age where they can enjoy, like, and understand, like, I'm going to take them regardless, but I can't wait to take them when they're old enough to like bask in the beauty of
Sure.
Lake Jocassee. So that's a
Okay.
little behind the scenes why we weren't able to do it, because I wanted to spend a little bit more time, and it was I'm gone for a week and then I leave again Sunday. So we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but man, I was listening to all of the people talk about this. So, Michael, take it away.
You take it away.
No, 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 because I want you to be the when you heard. So let's start from the beginning. Almost it's what, 2 weeks now.
I think it's been
Microsoft
about two
announced
weeks. Yeah.
Microsoft announced that they were closing 4 studios.
Hmm.
Um, and let's go through them and the games that they're known for. One was Arcane Austin.
Hmm.
One was
Tango Game Works.
Tango Gameworks. The other two were, one was responsible for Doom, the mobile Doom game,
Yeah.
and
Let me pull up the Variety article here. Let's see.
and
Roundhouse Games.
yes,
Roundhouse Games was kind of being absorbed by the Elder Scrolls people.
mm-hmm,
Yeah. Tango Game Works, Arcane Austin, Alpha Dog Studios was the one. I think that did
yes,
the mobile Doom game.
that's the four.
Yeah.
That's the four. So
Yeah.
those four were announced,
Hmm.
and it sent shockwaves through the gaming industry for a number of reasons. Um, the One of the reasons was we had been getting reports up until the day it happened that Arcane and Microsoft were working together to release DLC and to fix Redfall. Arcane Austin was one of the studios that was
When you say
responsible
instead
for
of Microsoft, I would say Xbox, but I know what you
Xbox.
meant. Yeah.
So, sorry, thank you for the correction.
Yeah.
Um, Xbox
Because
and
Microsoft
Arcane.
don't give a fuck.
No, see, this is where I disagree with that, and we'll get to that in a minute. I think Microsoft gives all the fucks right now.
Sorry, I think we are about to agree on the same thing. We're just saying it differently.
Yeah. So
Because my thing is, Microsoft doesn't give a fuck about people; they give a fuck about money.
yes, yes, that we are in agreement on that.
Cool.
So the big problem was, what a lot of people saw was Phil Spencer went on. Was it kind of funny when Redfall dropped? and the whole backlash of how bad Redfall was. And Phil Spencer made the comments of, this was on us. We did not do a good job. We stepped in around for Starfield, and we did not do a good job of shepherding Arcane Austin in Redfall. We're going to make good. We're going to fix the game, do our best, and we're going to release DLC. So Arcane Austin being closed down meant that was not happening.
Mhm.
The mobile game, the Doom game, was a shock. The studio that produced that game, it was a shock because why did you literally listed in your case with the FTC to buy Activision Blizzard was you wanted to get into mobile gaming. So that was weird. And then the one that stuck out to me, that the biggest blow that everybody was like, Tango Gameworks.
Mhm.
That was the one where everybody was like, huh? And that set off the firestorm because everybody was like, I can understand Arcane Austin, even though you did say you weren't going to close the studio. It wasn't in danger of being closing. This was our mistake. Microsoft and Xbox admitted that we did not do a good job. When we have the studios, we should do a better job of helping them
Now,
do
question on
different. Go ahead.
that. Did Phil ever say he wasn't going to close the studio, or did he just say we're going to work to get this game right?
So I was listening to IGN, the Unlocked podcast. They mentioned an executive saying, and I don't remember which one it was. They mentioned an executive saying they were not going to close Arcane Austin because they actually had the quotes, and I wish I could go back. That's what I'm looking for right now. Um, that they were not going to close Arcane. But again, in their defense of closing Arcane, people could see the reason behind that one.
Hmm.
Arcane made a bad game. A lot of people are upset because they were the makers behind Prey. They had
Hmm.
worked and they'd worked on some Dishonored parts of Dishonored. However, they felt the consensus was that one we can understand, but Tango is the one that everybody was like, huh?
Hmm.
And it really came on the heels of Microsoft showing, hey, we made a profit. So why did you close these studios? And
Yeah,
that set off an entire firestorm online.
yeah. Um, I think it's wild. I guess I got to give you your flowers. When we were talking about this big $69 billion deal buying Activision, I was on board saying I think it's a great move for Microsoft. And you were very hesitant. You were like, maybe
Mm-hmm.
this isn't the thing we wanted. I don't know what moles you got. I don't know if you got the same moles that Kendrick got in Drake's camp for you to know stuff. I don't know, but I don't know if you saw the writing on the wall. But you were like, this isn't the best thing in the world. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're proven to be right.
I I think what really made me pause is I did not want this to go through, the Activision Blizzard deal to go through, because I felt like Microsoft was buying its way to relevancy with Xbox, with Microsoft being the parent company for Xbox. I felt like they were flexing instead of using the studios that they already had to make great games.
Hmm.
And I felt like when I looked at the writing, and it wasn't like it was some giant hot take. I looked at the writing, I looked at everybody was all on board for this deal. Like, this is going to be great for a number of reasons. But then I said, well, let's look at the reasons it might not be a big deal. Might not be a good deal. I didn't see them closing these studios. That wasn't one of the reasons that I thought. But I did think that if you spent $70 billion on something, that is going to put the spotlight on Xbox that did not have the spotlight that it had before.
Sure,
And that when you spend $70 billion on something,
you need to
it
make
better
money
put.
now,
Mhm.
not
And
down the road.
so I felt like that spotlight was going to be on Microsoft that it had not had all along. That my and a lot of people are making excuses, or they're trying to backtrack, or they're trying to, and I lay this at the feet of Microsoft's hands off approach to Xbox to a certain extent and the leadership that Xbox has had under Phil Spencer. And the reason why I say that is because when they bought Activision Blizzard, they sold it to the gaming industry and the FTC that this was going to be good. And gamers and people who play video games and everybody bought the press releases. They did not dig deeper and said, how is this going to affect gaming as a whole? And how is this going to affect Microsoft and, in essence, Xbox? And now we see exactly what that means. And here's the thing. This isn't a hot take. They're not done closing studios. They're not done slashing. I think the Activision Blizzard deal is going to irrevocably change Xbox. It may change it for the better. I don't know. They may be trimming, getting leaner, like a football player who's like, I got a little bit too much weight on me. I need to slim down for the new season that's coming up. It could be that, and they could totally rebound. But the new fiscal year just started, and I would wager there's going to be even more changes coming that we do not foresee.
Yeah, I think everything you're saying is valid. I agree with all that. I saw, and I don't know an article, it was a podcast I was listening to that was referencing something else. And I'm going to paraphrase this, but whoever the podcast contributor was, they said something to the effect of both Nintendo and Sony make new and weird games so that they can make more weird and new games. But Microsoft and Xbox make new games so they can make money.
Yes.
And that really struck a chord with me. It's like, that's interesting. And I wonder who runs Microsoft, not Xbox, but who runs Microsoft? What's that guy's name?
He just did a conference. It's
Let's see, head of Microsoft, Satya Nadella.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. The thing I've been seeing online, which I think could be interesting, is there sort of, and not necessarily a power struggle, because obviously the top of Microsoft is always going to win over the top of Xbox, but is there a clash of ideologies between Nadella and Phil Spencer?
No, because
you don't think so?
Let me tell you why there's not a power struggle. Phil does not have any power when it comes to
sorry.
this.
That's why I changed it. I said not power struggle, but like a clash of ideologies.
I do think there is yes, I agree with that. But I think what's going on is Phil has been doing something, and I'm not going to say he's wrong for this. I have bought into the idea that you brought up, that Game Pass is the future. I believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that. The problem is Game Pass isn't profitable.
Right.
And in order for Game Pass to work, you have to sell consoles.
Mm-hmm.
And we have just seen the reports that have come out. Sony has sold 5 times more consoles recently in the last quarter over Xbox. Xbox sales of consoles are down. I want to say they were down, they said 30%. Either way, they're not selling enough consoles for Game Pass to be profitable. The problem with that is that whatever Phil's goal for Game Pass and whatever his goal is for all of these things, he now has to answer to Microsoft, when before he probably had a little bit more leeway to do whatever he wanted with Xbox. And now, as the market has changed, inflation is up, these companies are making record profits. However, they're not making the record profits that they believe they should be making.
Sure.
And now and I hate using this term, but I do understand why people use it. The leash has been tightened on Microsoft because you just spent $70 billion. If you hadn't spent $70 billion, I think Phil might have been able to do a little bit more.
The leash is tightened on Microsoft or on Xbox?
On Xbox. The leash is tightened on Phil Spencer and Xbox because you just spent $70 billion. You spent $70 billion, and now you need to show a profit. And now it's the nerds who were able to do whatever they want to do and fly under the radar because they were making it was a nice you own stock. You buy stocks for different reasons. And in your portfolio, you have some stocks you're like, this doesn't mean a lot to me in my portfolio. It's money that you play with. Microsoft's Xbox division was money they played with. And then that money they played with got tight.
Right.
And now Microsoft is like, oh, y'all spent $70 billion.
Yeah.
What you got to show for it. And so
because not only did they do that, just to add on to that, not only do they do that, they also got their dirty laundry aired out in the court case. So people also saw behind the curtain a little bit of what else is going on. Yeah.
Yep. And not only did they see behind the curtain, they also saw a little bit of what the plans were, and certain things came to light. So we knew Xbox had an opportunity to get Baldur's Gate on the Game Pass. And what happened with that? And so like when you have all of these little stories, it's like little tears. It's like the death of 1,000 cuts. It's like a huge dam. And every time a little leak comes out and somebody's putting their finger in there, somebody's putting their finger there. And Microsoft, and I hate the fact that, because you were the one who said it. We did a press play, because we've been talking about Xbox for a while with this FTC and buying Activision. And it was you who said it, and IGN is now running with it. Microsoft keeps stepping on, Xbox keeps stepping on rakes. And you were the one who said that earlier, before they even jumped on board, because we were really skeptical. I felt like IGN, certain people on the Unlock podcast, were very much on board with this deal. And I think part of the reason why they were on board with this deal is because they have a close relationship or a personal relationship with people at Microsoft and Xbox, because they do a lot of interviews. They have a relationship, and they were buying the press releases. And
I don't know if I agree with that, but okay.
I would say if you watch the last two Unlocked, yeah, they are a little bit more objective now than they were during the trial. During the trial, there were certain people who were very much like, let the deal happen. Like, why are you in the middle of this? Why are you stopping this? And criticizing the cases that FTC was bringing to stop this deal, instead of being objective and saying, what does this deal mean for gaming as a whole? And I think that was the problem that a lot of people did not take into consideration. And I think even Phil didn't take in consideration when they made this move. I do not, because here's the thing. I don't know the man personally. I don't know. But I wonder, did he realize when him and his compatriots made this deal, how much it was going to change Xbox?
Sure. I am curious, and I know I am certainly biased towards Phil Spencer. I like Phil Spencer. Every time I see him on an interview, he seems genuine to me. He seems to be like a gamer. He seems like the Reggie Fils-Aimé type in terms of being a gamer, a gamer head. I always felt like Reggie Fils-Aimé at Nintendo was somebody who played video games. I read his book, and he seemed like he did play video games. And I kind of feel the same way about Phil Spencer. So I always felt like everything he says is genuine. I do wonder sometimes if the gamer in him gets in the way of the businessman in him, in terms of trying to balance both things. Because I do feel like he wants to do these things, but at the same time, it is he does have to answer to a higher power. Like you said, spending that $70 billion puts a spotlight on you. So maybe you guaranteed, hey, we'll be able to make money down 4 months, 5 months down the road, but now you need to make money now because we just spent $70 billion.
And not only that
we made.
Not only that, you have to answer to shareholders, and shareholders don't give a shit about Tango Gameworks.
Sure.
Shareholders don't care that Hi-Fi Rush is that we're no longer going to get a Hi-Fi Rush 2 or an Evil Within 3. They don't care. They're looking at their stock portfolios and saying this line should be going up, and it's not going up steep enough for them. It may be
Right.
going up this way, but it ain't going up that way, and
Yeah.
that is what you're dealing with.
And it's
And
weird too, because when you talk about them closing Tango GameWorks, Microsoft is Xbox has always had an issue of trying to break into the Japanese audience in the
who
Japanese
preach?
market.
I know
And
where you're going.
I mean, and granted, this is out there everywhere. This isn't a fresh take, but it's just everybody's kind of in agreement. It seems weird to close your only Japanese studio that was, that was there producing games for that market and producing not just for that market, but producing in that market. So I don't know what the long term goal is if you close that. I mean, I don't know what this says because the idea of acquisitions is going to keep happening. Sony's going to continue to buy studios. I think Xbox is probably going to still buy more studios. They probably won't spend $70 billion again, but they're going to try to buy more stuff. But I wonder, like, if you're a studio, why would you go under them if you feel like you guys? I can't trust that you're not going to close me.
Here's the thing. I don't think they're going to buy more studio. I think. Well, hold on. I do believe Xbox is going to try to buy more studios. Here's the question. I agree with everything you just said. Why would anybody allow themselves to be acquired? And two, will Microsoft allow them to buy more studios?
Sure.
Because why are you buying studios if you're going to close, if you already have studios that are making games that you're going to close? And I think that is what is going to happen next. I think there is an ideological power struggle going on at Microsoft right now when it comes to what Xbox means to them. And I want to piggyback off of what you said earlier. Sony and Nintendo make games and make weird games to continue to make weird games. Whereas Microsoft uses Xbox to make money. And that goes back to an argument that I had to realize when I worked at a news station, and it was something Howard Bryan said, and I've said it before, and I'm going to paraphrase, and then I'm going to bring it back because it's something that it goes back to this philosophy. Howard Bryan said that I work at ESPN, and he said I had to come to terms that I do not work at a journalistic outfit. I work at a media company that has a journalistic arm within the company. At the end of the day, he's saying ESPN is here to provide entertainment. We are not a journalism company. I say that to say Xbox is a part of Microsoft. Microsoft's goal is not to make video games. Microsoft's goal is to make software for computers, and they have dabbled in hardware. You do have the Surface Pro. They do make laptops. They do make some hardware, but their goal is a software company by nature. They are everywhere. They're on the right now. We're broadcasting. We're using laptops that probably have Windows on it. Xbox is just a small part of the overall company that is Microsoft. And when you finally look at it, that's what Xbox is a part of. Whereas Sony is a company who has entertainment. Microsoft don't make movies. There's no Microsoft entertainment.
I think there might be.
Hold on.
Okay.
Sony has a movie. Sony, the company Sony, has Sony Pictures. Sony is now looking to buy Paramount. Nintendo's only goal is a video game maker. So you have to look at the three companies, and that's when I looked at this deal, the Activision Blizzard deal, and I was like, I looked at it from that standpoint, and that's why I was very hesitant, because Microsoft's buying this to make money. They're not buying Activision Blizzard so that they can, even though that's what they said we are buying this company and these studios to allow them to make games and have the cushion and the backing of Microsoft to make the games that they want to make, while also making games that make money. Well, that is, in the face of what they said, is not true. because it can be true that that's what you want to do, but them shareholders are like, I don't give a shit about Hi-Fi Rush. They
Yeah.
don't. And it's obvious. And you can, and here's a slap in the face. And this is why I think people are very upset behind all of this. Matt Booty went and had a town hall the very next day. And what did he say, Michael? Do you remember?
No.
He had a town hall the very next day, or the same week they closed these four studios. And he said, we need games, smaller games from studios that win awards, that are new, that are weird, and are different. And people are like, excuse me? Hi Fi Rush won a BAFTA.
Yeah.
Hi Fi Rush was successful, but it wasn't successful enough to keep it open.
The
And
biggest thing
that is
everybody's saying is, what does success actually look like?
boom. And that is what the slap in the face is. And then it didn't help that Sarah Bond had that whole 20-minute, which I call a media disaster
Not a
of an
great look
interview.
for my girl Sarah Bond.
And I watched that and I was like, I mean, you can bring, like, it's 20 minutes I can't get back. And I thought that was one of the worst. I thought that was one of the worst interviews you could do after closing those studios,
Hmm.
because it looked like she was unprepared for those questions that we all knew were coming, and they weren't hard questions, because the interviewer didn't even follow up on that word salad of an answer when she asked her about.
Yeah, and it was also, and I haven't seen it because I didn't really want to see her in that light. But
I did.
um, was there like something in the background showing the profits? Was that something too, or is that a different thing?
I
Somebody
can't
was saying
remember
like
because
there was something like in the same time as she was doing that, like you could see the record profits that Microsoft was having.
probably, because here's the
Okay,
thing, I didn't watch the interview, I listened to it, I was
okay,
driving and listened to it, so I was like
got it.
not watching. I saw her walk up and I saw like a couple of clips of like her, but I listened to the whole thing, and that was 20 minutes. Because I wrote down, they didn't get to Tango Gameworks or the studios being closed until 4 minutes in. She never
Hmm.
answered the question. 10 minutes in, they asked about, and this is what really bothered me. These questions really bothered me. So 10 minutes in, they didn't even get the Game Pass until 12 minutes into the interview, which I thought was very wow. She didn't bring up Game Pass until 12 minutes into it, which I thought was interesting. But the thing that got me was the interviewer asked her about games on other platforms and basically why is Xbox's ecosystem something that's sustainable that I would want to buy an Xbox. And they asked her about the games being on other platforms. She had no data. They literally asked her about Sea of Thieves and asked her about like these games are on other platforms. She had no data to back up whether or not these games were doing well on other platforms. Sea of Thieves, when it came out, was in the top 10 on PSN. So how do you go up for an interview and not even know where your games are on other platforms? That was just mind-boggling to me. Um, I just that to me that interview was disastrous, because
Sure.
it wasn't like you were up there with Jason Schreiber. It
Hmm.
wasn't like you were up there with anybody from The Verge who like follows these video games. You like, and you weren't even being interviewed by anybody from IGN. You were interviewed by somebody who was basically giving you softball questions, and you couldn't even answer those.
Hmm.
And that to me was very telling.
So, question then. Let's spin this forward a little bit. Uh, do Are we firing the heads of Xbox? Does Phil Spencer need to be let go?
I'm going to say this, and you're going to find this very interesting coming from me. No.
Okay. I mean,
I
I
think
would say no, but go ahead.
I th- I would say no. I know a lot of people probably would like Phil Spencer to be fired, Sarah Bond to be fired, Matt Booty to be fired. I do believe they deserve to be fired,
Hmm.
but I don't think you fire them because they went along with what Microsoft wanted.
Sure.
And what Microsoft wants, they did it. They
Yeah.
did leak to the press. This wasn't us. This was our corporate overlords. They didn't do any of those things that they could have done, which
Right.
says to me, you're towing the company line. You're confused about what to do, but you're
Hmm.
doing what is necessary to keep your job, and also let's see how this shakes out. I'm not somebody who's advocating for people to be fired. I personally think before you let studios go, the executives who made Studio Arcane Austin make Redfall should be let go. I
Hmm.
personally feel that way about them. Everybody who put these people in these positions and then reaped the profits from it should be let go instead of the workers in the studio. But I don't think they're going to be let go, and I think Microsoft is going to keep trugging along because these people are willing to do what they want them to do. Now, I don't want Phil Spencer to be fired for a different reason. I want to see if his ultimate dream
It's
and his
realized.
yep, because
Sure.
I agree with you. I agree with you that Game Pass is the future. I agree with you that Game Pass is the future for a number of things. One, I do believe we're in a market going forward where people who are younger than us are do not care what platform they play a game on.
Right.
They only care to play the game.
Because so many
And
of them play games on their phone.
yep,
That little
yep.
shitty ass screen. Play Fortnite
Hmm.
forever on their phone. Yeah.
But here's the thing: that screen ain't as shitty as it used to be.
Good point. That's a good point. And when I say shitty, I don't even mean quality. I guess I mean in terms of size. Like for me,
Yes.
I want to play on a big 65-inch TV, not on like
Hmm.
this little 7-inch screen. But yeah, you can get a
Because
4K 7-inch screen. So yeah.
and I'm gonna take it back to something you said because we've only been talking about 30 minutes in this, and I want to get more a little further down when we talk about Game Pass. The reason why these kids are not so aligned with because even I have grown up and think that the whole Xbox versus Sony versus Nintendo is an outdated fandom thing. However, comma, I do believe it served a purpose in getting people excited about gaming. And I do believe gaming in the past made entry level games for people and kids, and
Hmm.
they raised gamers. So it goes back to that idea that you were saying you made weird games to make weird games. But I also think you made weird games and childish games because if you don't grow the audience and the next generation of gamers, you're only making gamers for old fucks like us.
Sure.
And if you're not growing the industry by introducing and having a Ratchet and Clank and having um, children, not, I don't want to say childlike games, but all ages games like a Nintendo, then you don't have a system that's going to sustain itself. And I think Phil understood that, which is why Game Pass is the future, because Game Pass was allowing you to have the blockbuster game next to the weird indie game. You were
I'm
going,
playing the new whatever the new Jedi is, Jedi Outcast, Jedi Survivor. I'm playing that on Game Pass right now,
mhm.
which is
But
great.
you also played, here's the other thing, you also played Tunic.
I did also on Game Pass. Yeah.
And that's what I think Phil is trying to do. So that's why I said I don't think you should fire Phil. I know a lot of like right now they're just nuking his poor little Fallout 76 base. I mean, they're just railing that thing.
Yeah.
And I feel for him because I do believe as a human being, he feels. I do
Right.
believe as a gamer, he does understand what's going on. But I do believe you're right. As an executive, he bears the weight of the responsibility of all of this shit at his feet.
Well, I think the thing about that is if you were to fire him and Matt Booty, Sarah Bond, like who do you replace him with? That's the thing is like, okay, they're gone. Now
Hmm.
what? Like who takes over? I don't know what
Hmm.
the path of leadership is beyond them, and I don't know what their strategy is if they're gone. So I mean, getting rid of them, I don't think does anything
No,
because those
and then
people,
that's
it's not like those studios are coming back; they're gone.
no.
Um, I did see
Here's
this
the,
update on IGN saying so Redfall is going to get that final update. It looks like
yes. So
so. That's cool.
yes. I'm looking at it right now. Redfall will get the final update. However, and I got two questions. I'm going to ask the first one, and then I'll ask the second one after you answer. What did you think? Because I wasn't like, aha, I told you so when I heard that the studios were closing. But I did have a, yeah, that sounds about right. What did you think when you heard the studios closed? Like before you like listened to Kind of Funny or like really were able to like digest
Oh,
what
I
happened?
mean, the
What
first
was
thing I
your
thought was
mindset?
just like Lee. It was interesting hearing Leroy's take about maybe this whole buying Activision was the greatest thing in the world because
Mm-hmm.
everybody focused on the idea of, which is a good idea, that there was some sort of toxic work culture when Activision was on its own, and
Yes.
Microsoft would help clear that up, which I think is great. But nobody else really focused on, okay, if you spent this much money, you have to show receipts, or you have to show results sooner than you wanted. Because
Mm-hmm.
we've been talking about for the past 3 years, closures continuing to happen within the video game industry. We
Not just
there,
closures, layoffs. Every month we get a new round of layoffs.
yeah, and there was hope that maybe it was kind of dying down, but it doesn't seem like it based on what we're seeing now. Now, what I don't know is I don't know how many employees were at each of these four companies. So I don't know how many layoffs that was, but I'm sure I'm sure the total of all four was definitely probably within the hundreds easily. Um, so it's going to be interesting to see when are we going to finally hit that equilibrium. We're like, okay, we have this figured out because the biggest thing is, like you said, there are going to be more layoffs and more closures coming. And right now we're focused on Microsoft, which rightly so. It's fucked up that the four studios closed. But earlier this year, didn't Sony have some major layoffs?
Yes.
Sony had layoffs.
In,
Sony had layoffs
Insomniac.
at big studios like Insomniac, Naughty Dog, that were making these killer games. Spider-Man sold 10 million units. They still had to lay off people. So I mean, it's like this goes back to a topic we've had before. What does success look like? Like you can sell 10 million units of a game and still have to lay people off. That's crazy.
And here's the thing, and I think part of that is we do not know, we don't know how much money is being spent. Like I understand the Insomniac leak, and I really do think I didn't like it, and we reported on it, but we didn't talk in depth
Hold
about it.
on 1 second. You keep going. I got to step out for a second. Hold on.
Okay, we didn't talk about the Insomniac leak as far as like the actual what word am I looking for? The actual details, but we did talk about the fact of how much money was spent on Spider-Man, how much money was spent on Spider-Man 2. And then you have to think about how much money those studios spent on that game. So then what is success for sales? And if and Spider-Man 2 did not sell enough units to save it from layoffs, is AAA video games a sustainable business model? And I think that is the thing that we have to consider going forward, where I think that these studios being closed is not the last round of studios, because going forward, Microsoft has said through Xbox, because I feel kind of like this is the thing that I feel like Xbox is. Microsoft is a parent company, but Xbox is basically a puppet with Microsoft's hands up it doing this thing. And I make that distinction because I want to say they are now pivoting to they are now pivoting to we're going to put our resources into these blockbuster games, these high profile games, which then means we don't have the time or the money for these smaller games. And what really makes me think this is not done yet is because they have not come out and said how they're going to sustain these big blockbuster games, because they don't have the data that tells us, or they're not sharing the data that tells us what success is for these huge games. So if you're a studio within Microsoft, aka Xbox. What does success look like for you? And these studios that just got let go or got closed, Hi-Fi Rush supposedly was a success. So
There
if
was
Hi-Fi
as I
Rush, go ahead.
add in on for you for a second.
Mhm.
I got to log into the work computer because stuff's breaking. Because stuff's always breaking.
Oh,
I was gonna say, Aaron Greenberg, who
mhm.
is somebody with an Xbox. I can't remember his title, but I think when Hi-Fi
That
Rush
name
came
so
out
familiar.
last year,
Yep. I just
he
man, I was just talking about that. Go ahead.
okay, yeah, he just sent out that tweet saying, or he sent out a tweet like Hi-Fi Rush essentially succeeded all the metrics that we wanted it. It did everything that it needed to do. So that
And you
tweet
closed
was
the
looking
studio
like
within a year.
right.
From
Um,
a year from that tweet, you close it within a year. So it goes back to that idea. And this is why I said I don't think this is done and over with because if Insomniac laid people off, how do you sustain the AAA game market?
mhm.
I don't think it's sustainable because, and here's the reason why I say that. If you can't make enough money on Spider-Man 2 when you have one of the greatest film franchises of all time going on at the same time, because think about it, there is no bigger commercial for a Spider-Man 2 game or a Wolverine game or an Avengers game or Midnight Suns than the MCU.
Mhm.
And if you can't, I was just in Walmart and Midnight Suns is $12 for the PS5, brand new
Hmm.
in a case.
Wow.
I put it on Threads and I said, this hurts because guess what was right next to Midnight Suns for $12?
I have no idea.
Callisto Protocol.
Oh wow. Okay. That was again. You paid full price for, right?
Full price for it, son. I had a $10 off coupon, but I still
Yeah.
played full price.
Yeah.
And so if you have a game from Square Enix that's an Avengers game, granted, it was a live service game. But if you have a Guardians of the Galaxy game that is not profitable, and you have the largest film franchise that basically is a commercial for these games, and they're not selling, what hope do you have for the next, I don't know, weird game? You see what I'm saying? Like Psychonauts. Like, does Psychonauts have a chance in today's market? And
Well,
that's the
yeah. You
thing.
look at the developer or that made that Double Fine. People that does seem they're wondering like is Double Fine on the chopping block. But the funny thing to me about Double Fine is Double Fine always seems to be like trying to find money and resources. So I feel like they're kind of used to being in this precarious situation. I don't know what they're working on now for Xbox Studios, but it is
But
kind of
here's
like,
the
okay,
thing.
you guys make weird games. How are you going to succeed?
And that's my, and that I want to bring it back to this idea of, is the AAA, like, if you're not making a Red Dead and a GTA 6, can you survive in this market? Can you survive in this going forward? Because here's the thing, I still want to play Starfield. I still think Starfield is, because I do like Bethesda's games, even though I know they're buggy. I still believe in the mission of Bethesda and them making these games. But here's the thing, Starfield was not good enough to move units. And that's what has to happen. And I do believe Microsoft having
Well,
Xbox.
that's icky because they've never said how many units Starfield said, but they just said it was good and sales wise. They've always said that sales were good for Starfield, but they never gave like a specific number.
And that's why I said I don't know if that's true.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because if you're if you're not giving me data on what is good, I don't believe you because you just told us Hi-Fi Rush sold exceeded expectations, and you still closed Tango.
I'm looking. I just did a quick little in Google Starfield sales numbers. IGN. This was from December 4th, 2023.
Mhm.
Starfield has now had over 12 million players. Phil Spencer says. But
12
again,
million players. That's on
the,
Game
the
Pass. That does
well,
not.
part of that is Game Pass. So who knows how many that's actually like sold, not from Game Pass.
And that's my point. If you telling me 12 million people played that game doesn't tell me, because that doesn't tell me how many people actually bought that game. And then two, at its highest, 12 million people played it, but also it's on Game Pass. So how many people actually finished the game? And that's another thing. You and I both talked about getting a game, playing it, and then not finishing it, and then having to come back to that game later. So the fact that it's on Game Pass doesn't tell me if that's those sales numbers. And here's another thing that I want to bring up. Hellblade 2 comes out in a week. Seen anything for
Less
that?
than a week. Yeah,
Seen any promotional material for that?
I have not. No.
That was the game that was originally launched when they released and they announced this last Xbox. This game is about to come and go without any huge promotion. I'm on YouTube all the time. I watch sports quite a bit.
Mhm.
I have yet to see any advertisement for Hellblade 2. This is supposed to be a tentpole video game. Storytelling wise, it's supposed to be up there. And it seems as if Microsoft and Xbox have dropped the ball on promoting this game. And I would really like to know why. And the reason why I bring up we don't know what success is because they keep telling us these games do well, but don't tell us how many units that they have sold and then turn around and close a studio.
Sure.
So I asked the whole thing, asked you about the question of what did you think when this came out? Here's my question to you going forward. Where do you think Microsoft's next move is? Because
I mean, hopefully, I feel
hold
like
on,
this
before you answer that, there's a report right now from The Verge that in the Wall Street Journal that Xbox has a showcase in June, which is in less than a month. Right now it is May 19th.
Mhm.
Microsoft plans to release Call of Duty, the next Call of Duty, which is the Gulf War. I think it's going to be Black Ops on Game Pass.
Mhm.
So, and that's the reason why I bring this up. And I asked you this question.
What just happened to Leroy? Oh my goodness. I don't know what just happened, but that is wild to see him just die right there. As I work on something, his video just crapped out. So we are going to play a little game of see if we can make this work because he's gone now. I'll try to. What do I think Microsoft's game plan is? Um, I think their game plan is to be on the defensive. We know they have a press conference or showcase coming up in June. I think that's where you have to roll some stuff out of saying, hey, it's a scary time for Microsoft. It's a scary time for us right now. We kind of effed up with letting these people. Maybe don't say that. It's unfortunate these people had to go, but we do have a future. We have a game plan. Computer restarted. There we go. His computer restarted. He'll come back on when he can. We have a game plan. That game plan is here's a pipeline of the next 6 months for Xbox. I don't know what that looks like exactly, but that is a thing of, hey, we hope we can win your trust back. We realize you guys are kind of trying to figure out, oh no, Microsoft doesn't know what it's doing. Xbox doesn't know what it's doing. We have these games coming down the pipeline that's going to allow us to figure ourselves out, get ourselves back on the right foot, and go forward. I think if they can wow people in June with some crazy games, I think you have to almost have, before they close these 4 studios, I think they could have done the same thing of, here's more stuff we have coming down the pipeline. We're going to show you the new Doom game. We're going to show you actual Fable video. We're going to show you whatever the Midnight game was with like the paper mache style graphics. We're going to show you that. I think now maybe you start this whole conference with the first 20 minutes of you get some real people to ask you some questions and you answer them. I think you get somebody like a Jason Schreier, you get somebody like a Ryan McCaffrey at IGN or somebody like that, or Khalif Adams. Let them ask you real questions and you answer them as best you can. I think you kind of save face a little bit when you went on Kind of Funny's Xbox Xcast and let people ask you questions there. I think you do the same thing here. You get grilled by three people, let them ask you questions for about 20 minutes. And you say, hey, this is a longer conversation. You can see the whole conversation later, do some type of transition, and then you show the rest of your press conference. I think you have to kind of take a little humble pie for a second and realize, okay, Phil has his grand plan, right? He's playing this three-dimensional chess, hopefully, and maybe we can finally see what it is, but we just have to wait for him to bring that up on his own. Are they going to be able to do it? I don't know. I think one thing that we haven't talked about is this was kind of Xbox's year to kind of succeed because Sony didn't have any real games coming out this year. They said that earlier. They didn't have any major first-party games coming out for the rest of the year, not till 2025. I think this could have been where Microsoft was kind of eating good, showing off some good stuff, showing off the Indiana Jones, showing off the Senua Sacrifice, Senua Saga, whichever one is, Hellblade 2. Even showing off Aria, which I'm really a fan of. I think that would have been cool. The question is, will people listen to them? Are people going to allow them to give them time to let that happen? I don't know. I'm not on the internet as much as Leroy is, but I will say this. Every time I'm on the internet, I see people commenting on different things. Oh, I got so much stuff going on here, y'all. It's crazy. When I see people comment on different things, the things they kind of say, granted, they're talking about they want somebody's head. They want somebody to figure out what's going on with this. Let's see. Are these? That's in there. What'd you say?
I said, guess who's back?
Oh yeah. I think what was your question? Like, where does Xbox go from here?
Yeah, with now the reports saying that Game Pass is going to have the latest Call of Duty, where does Microsoft with Xbox go from here? Considering sales are down 30%, hardware sales are down 30%. Game Pass can't function without a host, basically, as a virus. If you look at Microsoft like a virus trying to put Game Pass everywhere, it needs hosts, it needs consoles. And if you don't have the consoles, how does Xbox go forward? And it's a problem that I think Nintendo doesn't have, and it's a problem that right now Sony doesn't have. How do you go forward if you're Microsoft with Xbox?
Yeah, I think it goes to the idea of I kind of talked about this while you were gone, but I think like that June press conference, it needs to be different from what you had before this announcement. I almost think it's a thing of you set up a press conference type situation and you have three hard hitting journalists, whether it's like a Jason Schreier, maybe you even get Ryan McCaffrey from IG and you get Khalif Adams, you get these people who are going to ask you hard questions and you let them ask you questions and figure out, hey, guys, we got to figure something out. You let them ask you those questions. You answer them as best you can. You're honest with them. And then you say, this can be pre-taped, obviously. You play 15 minutes of that. And then you come out to something else. And Phil Spencer's like, yeah, this was tough or whatever. Or somebody from Xbox says, you can actually see this full interview, online on our website or whatever. And then from there, you start delivering games. And I think you show like the next 6 months of what Xbox has. I think you blow up the fact that Call of Duty is coming to Xbox. It's going to, you can't buy it on PlayStation, but you can play it as part of Xbox right now, Game Pass. And maybe you do some type of wild thing where you do a discount on hardware or something, and you give people a chance to get Game Pass or something for super cheap, and just hope you can keep them because people are going to play Call of Duty forever. They continue to do that. Even when the game isn't necessarily great, people still buy it every year. And you just hope that is enough to get people into the ecosystem. Once they're in the ecosystem, hopefully they'll be like, oh, I do like this. I like what this is doing.
See, here's my question though.
Mm-hmm.
Is that enough?
because I Xbox has squandered a lot of goodwill when it comes to their games because it seems every 2 to 3 months something new comes out where Xbox has to pivot to explain or have a press conference or basically I don't even know what you call it. The last catastrophe that they had was the reports that their exclusives were not going to be exclusives anymore. That you were going to be able to play Microsoft Xbox games on the PS5 and on Nintendo. And the whole panic was Hellblade 2, Halo, Gears of War, Indiana Jones. Were these games going to end up on other platforms when they were supposed to be exclusive to Xbox? Before that, it was the leaks. Before that, it was the FTC case. And before that, it was, oh, there are no video games in 2023 that came out that were exclusive to Xbox. And it seems to be every 6 to 12 weeks, there's always a sub big Microsoft Xbox story
Sure.
that they have to explain, that they have to apologize for. And that's why I said, I don't know if this is enough because this was supposed to be Microsoft's year. Sony ceded the year of 2024 to Microsoft and Xbox because they said, we're not releasing any first party titles on our system.
Hmm.
And the stock price of Sony dropped. And then Microsoft and Xbox said, they literally said, hold my beer. And we're going to compete for the bottom in video games. Nintendo the rumor was that they were going to release their Switch 2 this year. That's not happening. Sony doesn't have shit to show for it as far as first party titles on their system. And
Sure.
Microsoft and Xbox have said, how can we make this worse for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think
I mean,
it's just
honestly,
a big powwow that Nadella has. Nadella, what's the guy's name? I forgot his name. The Microsoft guy and Phil Spencer have about what exactly do you want out of this position and how do we move forward? Because okay, you guys want cuts. Okay, there needs to be some type of understanding. I don't know what that understanding looks like. I just think like they just need to have a sit down, heart to heart, to figure out exactly what they want to do. Um, Having said that, I still think, and I'm optimistic because I'm still playing Game Pass. I'm still playing good games. I'm eating good because I'm getting to play all these different games. I think if they can
but how
show
much
more
is that
people,
costing you?
what, maybe $20 a month, maybe. I think that's what I'm paying for Game Pass. $20 a month.
The reason why I say that is because I would like to know how much it's costing you. And again, this isn't a criticism of you. You are a single man with disposable income with a pretty good job.
Hmm.
You don't have the responsibilities of taking care of anybody but you.
Hmm.
You can afford Game Pass and other subscription services
Sure.
that does not. So what I'm saying is, how much is that costing you? And Game Pass has to compete with other streaming services, other paid subscriptions. And the reason why I bring that up is because that $20 has got to come up.
Hmm.
The fact that they haven't done a price hike recently is going to change. I think in the new fiscal year, when they announce this June showcase, I'm expecting a price hike on Game Pass.
Interesting. I can see that. I
I
think the way they try
It's
to sell it is, hey, the new Call of Duty is here, but
boom.
also we're going to raise the price.
We're
Yeah.
going 24.90. We're going 24.95 for the basic plan.
Ah, Jesus, that's a lot.
Mhm.
I don't know about that. I don't think they're
I
gonna be able to pull that, but who
I
knows?
I think I think that they are. I think they're testing the waters of a price hike. I really think that they are going to try a price hike in this showcase. And I think the reason why they're going to try a price hike in this showcase is because they were trying to figure out how in the world they were going to justify putting Call of Duty on Game Pass.
Hmm.
And I think that's going to happen because I
Um,
think you have to. I think because you're not selling more hardware, you're being beat in. You're not selling more hardware. You're being outsold 5-1. And this is what. And here again, this is on a down year from both Sony and Nintendo because
sure.
what is Nintendo's biggest game that they're going to announce this year?
I don't know.
Nobody knows. And and the reason why I bring that up is this is a down year. 2025 is going to be huge.
Hmm.
Switch 2 is coming. GTA 6 is coming. We also know Sony is going to drop quite a bit of shit. We also know Sony has in the pipeline because we just talked about it 2 weeks ago. All the God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm quite sure. What's the car show with Winter Falcon dude,
Twisted
Clarence,
Metal.
Twisted Metal. Those shows are coming.
Hmm.
Now, I don't think that they may be coming in 2025. I think Twisted Metal is. Um, so Sony is gearing up for 2025 to be a big year. This is the year I think Microsoft has to make that push to a higher price point for Game Pass so that they can get people to lock that price in now
Hmm.
as they start rolling stuff out on Game Pass to get people into the ecos to keep people when they drop Call of Duty. And so that price point's already there when they keep releasing it. Because the goal of Phil Spencer with Game Pass, because this is what how you got me into it. Every month they were going to release new games. Some big blockbuster, some indie. Blockbuster, indie. It was going to be an ebb and flow. We have yet to see these games.
You
We
mean
know,
you mean ones made by Microsoft or by
yes.
Xbox? Okay.
Mhm. So we have yet to see these games. I think that license for Indiana Jones is expensive. I expect to see that on Game Pass. I expect to see all these other games that they are going to announce on Game Pass. And I think they're going to announce a price hike to be like, in order to provide these games for you,
Hmm.
we need a little bit more money.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I see them doing it now before the Christmas holidays. I see it now. Do it now before you got to compete in 2025 with the juggernauts that are coming.
Okay. Um, all right. We've been going an hour. We've said some good stuff.
Yep.
My final thoughts is Microsoft sure stepped in, or Xbox sure stepped in some stuff, but hopefully they can work their way out of it. I still trust in Phil Spencer. I hope him and his team can figure something out, and I hope he's able to realize his goal of putting Game Pass in as many places as possible, so that more people can play it and get the numbers up. That's my final thoughts.
My final thoughts are that I was right. I wish I wasn't. I really do.
Mhm.
I really wish I wasn't right on this one. I really wish that I could come back and say I was wrong. This was a good deal. But I feel like there is more things coming down the pipeline we are not prepared for. Business wise, I think there are more studios that are going to be closed. I think Microsoft is going to force Xbox to pivot, and they want Fallout 5, they want Elder Scrolls 6. I believe that those games that they are pivoting to make more of these big title games so that they can compete with Sony and Nintendo. Thank God they're not doing what Sony wants to do and make all live service games. But
Sure. Not yet.
not yet,
Yeah.
because they don't have to, because they got Call of Duty, biggest live service game ever. But I do believe more hurt is coming. And I do believe that there is an ideological fight within Microsoft about what to do with Xbox. Because I do think gaming is changing. And Xbox has never had or cultivated the first party exclusives that makes you buy that console.
Well,
I think
Halo was that.
you're right. And what have they done with it since then?
Yeah.
They have a shitty TV show and a subpar Halo Infinite. So I don't want to be right, but it turns out that I did something that I saw was right. And I really want to see how the showcase pans out.
All right, folks, we're going to end it on that dour note. We'll be upbeat and positive maybe next week, unless somebody else shits the bed in video game news. We'll see. But otherwise, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notification. Guys, help us get these numbers up so we can get better equipment so that Leroy's computer doesn't die on him.
I'm just buying another computer.
Leroy's been saying that for a while, y'all. He's been saying that for a while since we started this.
I'm buying one tonight. My wife is going to be very mad when she sees that price tag, but this just shut down in the middle of me talking. So
I mean, this sounded like you over here spending money like Microsoft did for Activision. Now you got to come up with receipts.
Yeah, that's how marriage works.
Okay, there we go, folks. We'll continue this marriage later. Until next time, we'll see you later. Peace.